Suzette has three children ranging from 8 to 16 and a half. She makes it clear that she is the undisputed authority in her home. Is this valid? Or does she need to make room for shared authority? Authority is a force that is wielded. It can be used in both a good and a bad way. It kind of reminds me of the Star Wars phrase, "May the Force be with you." In Star Wars, the Jedi used the Force to defend the vulnerable, but the Sith used it to oppress, dominate, and control. As we enter May, it seems appropriate to tap into that theme. And the discussion of authority is a perfect topic for this discussion. Another famous line referring to the authority, perhaps even more familiar to parents, the quintessential statement of parental authority. Because I'm the parent, that's why. We've all heard it, and most of us have laughed a bit. For many, there is a somewhat nervous laugh, though, mixed with a bit of righteous indignation, perhaps. That's all you need to know. Or a bit of guilt because we recognize how it discounts a child at their very core, including their perceptions, needs, wants, thoughts, opinions, etc. Either way, the statement represents the parent as the one in absolute dominance, beyond question. The parental authority position of what I say goes and you have no right to question or resist. It's an interesting statement, but have you ever thought that maybe this version of authority might actually be sabotaging effective parenting? Well, of course you have, really, but it's most likely the subconscious uneasiness in the statement. If we pause and allow ourselves to truly tune in, we will sense that there is something wrong about it. Parental authority has traditionally been a sacred stronghold in the belief system of virtually all parents. So sacred that to even explore it will raise the hackles of some parents. In some ways, this whole series has been leading up to this very topic. Autonomy, power, control, safety, and finally, the power of nurturing compel us to look at authority. These discussions have set the stage for us to rethink what healthy authority is really about. And I'd propose several important conclusions from today's discussion. First of all, we will reaffirm the legitimacy of parental authority. Second, we'll discover that authority is not about control and dominance. And finally, we'll see that parental authority and child authority are not in conflict with each other, but in fact, a magical blend that fosters the child's neurodevelopment necessary to learn and embrace self-protection and to make healthy choices. Unfortunately, the way we think of authority has migrated into a parental birthright of dominance. It starts small, come here now, and devolves into a whole variety of parent-teen conflicts that escalate into all-out battle for control over the child. This hijacks and undermines the developmental process, leading to disastrous results. This is not what we signed up for, but we feel stuck in the role, desperately trying to keep our children safe. Today, I'm suggesting that we rethink parental authority and shift from authority as dominance to a force of positive influence. The common meaning of authority, the way that we use the word today, plays out more like power over, the Sith way. It denotes the one in charge, the one with the right, actually, the privilege to dominate, dictate, and demand. Granted, there are gentler versions and harsher versions, but underneath, they come from the same basic belief. I'm the parent, you're the child. Translated means, I'm the authority in this family. I know things, and you need to listen and do what you're supposed to do. If we go back to video number 4, we recognize that each individual, including our children, own their personal power, agency, and control. We see that they have a developing responsibility and authority that includes making their own decisions and experiencing the results of those decisions. Some parents think, or maybe believe, that acknowledging their child's growing authority negates or reduces their ability to do their job. This is not actually true. To sort this dilemma out, we have to dig into the origin of this word. Authority comes from the Latin word auctor, or I think that's how you say it, A-U-C-T-O-R, meaning author, originator, creator, and even founder. It also means advisor, to increase, the one who causes to grow and nourish, and even the word or the idea of influencer. Now, instantly, we can see that this is a very rich word with some wonderful nuances for parenting even. And just like in Star Wars, where the Force can be protective or oppressive, we see the same potential with the force of authority. Let me highlight 5 positive and protective ways this applies in parenting. Parents are the originators, the creators. Parents are the authors. We write the introduction and the initial story. Parents are the advisors. We are the nourishers as well. And ultimately, parents are the influencers. The role of influencer is so important that we actually deal with this as a standalone topic in the end of this series. But now for the interesting twists on how it applies. Yes, the parents are the original creators, but the twist is that once created, the child becomes the creator of their own life. Yes, the parents are the authors, but the child now picks up their own story and they write their own future. Yes, the parents are the wise advisors, but we need to make sure that they are willing to listen or our advice falls flat on the floor. Yes, the parent is the one that nourishes. This is actually the number one job, to nurture our children's growth and development, as discussed in last video. And finally, the ultimate, the most powerful role that we play, especially with the teen and young adult in our lives, learning how to maximize our influence in their lives and their decisions. When we work from a position of influence, we actually have more positive, powerful impact. This is the true Jedi way. Please note, nowhere in this perspective do we find, quote, the one with privilege or right to dominate, dictate, and demand, end quote. That interpretation comes from a derogatory view of God, where God sits way up, out of reach on the throne, is untouchable and beyond question, is either out of touch or doesn't care about the creatures. In fact, the creatures are there for his use, even if it destroys them. This view impacts even those that don't believe in God. It represents a complete misunderstanding of power and authority. It is a distortion of the role those in authority play. It comes straight out of our own misunderstanding of leadership. This is actually the Sith way. The ends justify the means, a way of dominance and power over. It is a view energized by fear of vulnerability, by anger, and our own power and control issues. I'm arguing that the evidence, not just simply the meaning of the word, but the evidence itself, does not support or require this oppressive interpretation. In fact, when we look at the etymology of authority, the actual concept points us not to a dogmatic power over interpretation, but to the question, what interactions optimize our ability to cause or influence our children to grow and increase? I would propose that this actually captures the heart and true motive of any actively engaged, serious parent. How do we optimize our child's growth? How do we optimize their increase, their healthy development? Yes, we started this child, we created them. We're the originators, the authors. But if we pause, we can see clearly, even in young children, that they are now writing their own story, their own future, not us. It's equally true that we are influencing the story they are writing, but they are now their own authors. And so we better figure out how to have some influence in the future that they are creating for themselves. I'm hoping that by now we can see this awesome twist. What I would suggest is real authority. Parents always looking to be a positive force of growth and development, the positive influencers in their lives. It is important to note that this is a developmental imperative, biologically directed to occur. As a child grows, they move into the position as author. If we shift, we open a new role, that of influencer, the influencer that seeks to engage collaboratively. If we don't shift, the conflict occurs and the fight develops. Another interesting dynamic begins to show up: boundaries. How much authority is ours? How much is theirs? The boundary about how much authority each of us has slowly shifts as the child grows. Obviously, boundaries are a whole big topic of their own. I'm hoping that in this series, you can see that parents can either be a Jedi or a Sith. We can either fight to control them and the future they are creating, or we can figure out how to influence, not control, but influence their development, their choices, and behavior. Bottom line about authority: authority evolves. What authority is evolves. How we authority evolves. And this evolution is biologically driven. Wow, I think that's a huge, magical, and exciting twist. Now, going back to the beginning of today, the answer is yes. Suzette is the undisputed authority in her home. She has the very important authority role and function. The answer to the second question, does she need to make room for shared authority, is also yes. Looking at the origins of the word, we can see several important shifts. First, parental authority is legitimate. Second, authority is not about control and dominance, but instead, it's about the authorship and the influence. Parents are the original authors of a child's story, but this authorship shifts quickly to a shared responsibility. And in adolescence, authorship is all about being a powerful, positive influence. I would propose that parental authority is a powerful and dynamic force that shifts dramatically as the child grows. And so today, I say, may the authority be with you. The Jedi version, where authority is a force used to create, a force that nurtures and fosters growth, a force that seeks to help children write their own story, their own future. And finally, the ultimate force, the force of an influencer in your child's future.